Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another webcast with CIQ. Today, we're going to be talking more about Rocky Linux. I think we've alluded to some of this in the past, but we're going to be kind of diving in on some of the other things that we're doing around Rocky Linux. So, again, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. If you would, go ahead and like and subscribe so you can keep up with us, and also leave a comment. Let us know who you are and where you are. Like to make sure that we keep up with you and welcome you back when you come back. So, today, I have Neil and Robert are with me.
Hey, Zane.
Welcome back, fellas. How are things going?
Good. How y'all doing?
Wow. So today, let's talk some more about Rocky. I know we've kind of dived into some of these topics, Robert. I know you've talked some about repo as a service in the past. I don't know that we've ever actually really dug in and talked about what those are going to be and kind of how those are going to look. Sorry. So let's go ahead and start with repo as a service and talk about what it is and what we're trying to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Neil get into the specifics, but at the higher level, what we're really trying to do is find strategies and solutions that can help customers at scale maintain their environments, do their environments better. Over time, we're going to have multiple different strategies to help enhance that capability. And that's the overall goal of what we're doing with Repo. As far as the nuts and bolts, I'll let Neil maybe jump in and kind of talk through that. But at the end of the day, our goal is to help people long-term utilize Rocky at its fullest.
Yeah, the idea of Rocky or Repo as a service kind of here is it comes from a lot of experience and investigation and analysis of a lot of things that are out there and available in the enterprise Linux space for managing repositories. And a common theme among that management is the need to have customized repositories, possibly with different packages that come from various sources and also just packages that are updated, and you want to have a copy of them locally to ensure that they're valid and the right packages, and your systems aren't going out to the internet to a place that could be possibly of a less secure site, like any mirror or anything else. But this ensures kind of that the content that you're getting is going to be not only secure, but up to date, the latest current images or current packages from Rocky Linux, and enable customization around that to say, fit your business needs, that you want to pin packages at specific levels in various environments, and scale that out from an enterprise solutions level to manage your fleet of systems.
So you're going to be able to actually, like you said, pin environments to the way they are. I know in the past when I've done this, it really depended on where you had the management interface set up as to what packages you were getting. And a lot of times it was really difficult to even know, are they the right packages? So is this something that's going to help me with that problem?
Yes, it is something that we're aiming to provide, right? That your systems can subscribe to them and you can manage them kind of from a central location that gets you different plugins that might be available and whatever customizations that you might need for your business requirements.
So from a customization,
like we're here to kind of get those solutions and optimize this and improve it as it comes for whatever business needs there are.
So am I going to be able to put my own packages or my own software in this as a part of that repo?
Yes, is the answer there, and I think Robert may be able to talk a bit more about that, but at least not in specifics, but at a high level, how that might be managed.
Yeah, and we'll have multiple different ways to potentially do that, but think that we can deliver from a cloud environment in a very secure way down to your environment. Once it's in your environment, now you can do additional geographic capabilities, etc., from there, and or have multiple different ways in which you can scale that internally. And then obviously we're laying the framework and the building blocks for potentially some patching, some imaging down the road with the same trusted resource that you'd be able to utilize. And Neil nailed it. So think multiple different, potentially different build processes inside of an environment that's hardened specifically the way in which you want it hardened in order to execute the way in which you want to execute for your environment. So it just gives you flexibility and scale and the ability to do it in a systematic way.
And some of the other things that we're talking about with as we grow and add on to this platform is the ability to have customized images and customized containers for your software that are installing maybe some custom applications on top or whatever that might be, and serving those also out of a similar service that enables you to validate the software chain as it comes down the line from all the way from packages produced up at Red Hat and are imported and sent down the distribution line as it goes into make the operating system. So that's something that we're focusing on to be able to provide that transparency in the build process. That's kind of crucially important, especially today with all the supply chain attacks and everything else that are going on.
Absolutely. So is there something you could show us on that, Neil?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things CIQ is working on is CIQ Secure Linux, which it is. Robert, why don't you give the details there while I get the demo set up here? But
no, it's a great question. So it's a partnership we have with another company in a commercial capacity, and their code is commercial, so it's not available in the open source community. However, it does solve and address some of the security requirements that a lot of our customers are asking for. Protection in the memory space, protection in real-time access to environments. So it is a partnership that theoretically can block 40 to 50% of the CVEs that we see come in real time and give you the ability to really patch and manage your environment in a better way. So it is definitely a commercial offering. It's definitely a solution that needs to be built into the build process in order to execute well. And that's where Neil will show you what that looks like.
Cool. Yeah. So we have
maybe you can make it a little bit bigger, Neil.
Probably.
There you go.
How's that?
Perfect. That's awesome.
All right. So I just have a container here that's running Rocky Linux, and we've pre-installed a tool called CIQ. And this is kind of the entry point to Repo as a service. So from here, the first thing that you have to do is enroll the system to Repo as a service, and that would be kind of done throughout a provisioning process in the environment, or otherwise kind of set up in a way that isn't a barrier for administrators to use the system and enroll their systems into Repo as a service. So we'll have multiple provisioning options and ways to get this tool and get the sites enrolled or your systems enrolled into a particular site. And so the way we do that is we just do a CIQ enroll, and we provide a site token. And this will be a customized thing per product, per environment. And you can even think of a site token as potentially a way, right, to segment out which environments are getting what packages. So it's in a way a subscription to to get access to all of the Repo as a service features. And we can see all the things that we have access to by typing CIQ list. And of course, now it's a little bit too big, but I'll resize it. So we can see here, we currently have access with that site token to a product essentially called Secure 8. And this is the CIQ Secure Linux that Robert was just talking about. And so the next step after here is we have to enroll, we have to request that we get, or we have to enable that key. And so we can type CIQ enable Secure 8, and that'll go and talk to Repo as a service, validate that your subscription is valid, and modify the system by, in this case, enabling or installing a package and enabling the subscription in the package manager. And so the best way to look at this first is kind of to look at the linked libraries for a couple of packages. And so we can look at Bash, we can look at also look at libcrypto. So I think that's .so.1.1. And so in both of these, this is just a standard linkages of the packages as you would get them from Rocky Linux. There's just the standard linkings here. And so what we're going to do now is now that we've enrolled in the site and we've enabled the Security repository, we can do a DNF distro sync. And that's going to go ahead and talk to the repositories of Repo as a service and download the packages that need to be replaced because they've been updated and overridden by that repository using priorities to overwrite the packages as required. And we can see that here in the dist tag on the package, we have a EL85 CIQ secure. And so now if we go back and we look at what's being linked into bash, we see liblfr here, and that liblfr is by having liblfr linked is what enables Alchemist and RunSafe and CIQ Secure Linux to do its work here and provide the security aspects. And we can also see that in libcrypto. And if we quickly go and install Nginx, which we have in this repository built with CIQ Secure Linux, install Nginx. Then this will also be some of these packages are coming from Rocky Linux repository. Some of them are coming from CIQ Secure Linux. And so we're able to merge those packages together and structure them in a way that enables CIQ Secure Linux to work and also keeps any updates that are coming down upstream from Rocky Linux enabled on here as well. And any updates for packages that are built with customization, such as CIQ Secure Linux, would be updated as soon as they're available as well and made available into these repositories for all customers.
So Neil, this is interesting. I haven't seen it done this way, so I'm extremely interested now. I can take an existing Rocky install, and if I'm a CIQ subscriber, I can actually go against this repository and make that already existing distro have this secure version running on it without having to do anything else other than just subscribe it, update the packages, no rebuild, don't have to reinstall the kernel, nothing.
Right, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the other thing that's kind of big and a lot of folks have asked us for is what you're seeing here is our friends at RunSafe, the build there specifically for them. But in the same repository, you could also have the open source Rocky. You could have 5 other variations of that for your specific applications and environment. And then you can have this on-prem with a mirror from our solution that we maintain for you and do it as a service and provide you now additional layers that you can go do some interesting stuff in your environment for yourself.
Excellent. Thank you. Oh, and then Greg's jumping in here. Yeah, this goes back to being able to block the buffer overflows, like Robert was talking about earlier, for I think 40 to 50% of in-memory attacks that are attack vectors that come in. This is what gets blocked, and it's all those shared libraries within Rocky. Thanks, Greg. So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, Neil, is the CIS benchmarking. I know it's something that comes up quite a bit. We've been talking about it internally for a while. Where are we with that? What does it look like?
Yeah, the CIS benchmark actually was approved, I think, just the other day for Rocky Linux 8.5. So that is, I believe, available. I've been checking into it a little bit because they haven't produced, it looks like a finalized PDF, but the status has changed to approved. So it looks like the benchmark from that perspective is complete.
Very nice.
And Neil, in your mind, how does that play into the repo as well? And how can folks take advantage of something like that?
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting thing that could be implemented as well into Repo as a service to help with pre-hardened images and infrastructure that are set up to meet certain security standards. So you can think CIS 1.2, all the different benchmarks from U.S. government and from abroad as well, and from just independent organizations too. So all of those sorts of variants are possible to be created and delivered as part of this.
So what you're suggesting is have a different repo for each one of those, or I mean, obviously you have a collection of them, but if you have a specific thing you need, you have a repo that goes that route. So if I had whatever PCI environment, I'd had meat in one place, I had pick another. You had separate repos for each. Okay.
It's a kind of combination of both things, because many of these security profiles are applied by like specific tools that go and run and remove packages. And one thing that we can do with Repo as a service is create crafted repositories that are already lacking the packages that are, for example, are excluded by certain benchmarks, and then not only are the packages not installed, but also can't be installed because they're just not available there. So that's one way that can be delivered to lock down certain environments, as you mentioned, like PCI DSS, CIS, all those sorts of ones. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. So we've kind of already hit on the run safe and security, but I know we talked a lot about kernel versions as well. That question comes up quite often. I know if we look at the kernel version in Rocky and the RHEL variants, it can be a little bit older. What are we looking at there? What are we doing?
Robert, you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, Rocky Linux is always going to be bit for bit with Enterprise Linux. There was always going to be that solution available for the community. Also, what we want to do is do additional enhancements to that existing capability. So in an example that you just gave, we would like to move towards having a mainline stable kernel variant of Rocky Linux, for example, and potentially long-term stable kernel variants as well. So, and then, there's also going to be potentially universal base image for containers. There's also multiple different types of variants, as an example, that customers have been asking us for and people in the community have been asking us for. So this is somewhere where CIQ wants to make an investment and also provide additional capabilities to the community long term.
And can also plug that back into the repo as a service, right? So specific customers want specific kernels. We can, as it goes through the build process, put it in the right place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So one of the things I think, Neil, you kind of started down the path of, and when we talk about supportability, I think whenever I see the word enroll, to me, it reminds me of kind of that old way of I have to enroll every node, and it becomes painful because then I think you're counting. And one of the things that really interested me and excited me about CIQ was the model for support. It's not like most places. So instead of having to do a per node model where you're having to count and keep track, we actually have the option to support people. I know Robert's been passionate about that the whole time. We don't want to support nodes or hosts. We want to support people. It's kind of his mantra. So that's kind of the route we've gone. And I'll let you talk about that more, Robert, if you'd like to.
Yeah, no, it's great. So, at the end of the day, we believe that if we help the people that are managing the environments be successful, and we are working specifically with them to be successful, then we will be successful and so will they. I actually don't really care necessarily about how big or how complex or what that environment looks like. Our model is designed to support those different folks at the different levels of the support that they need them. And it gives us and them the freedom to then architect something based on what they need and what they want, instead of having to worry about their licensing model and how that's going to affect what they're doing. It also gives them a lot more flexibility in how they want to go about patching, or flexibility around imaging, and flexibility about, do I want to put this workflow in or workload into the cloud, or do I want it on-prem? We don't want to hamstring them in any way when it comes to that. So our model is based off of our ethos of how we want to support people. It's why and how we want to interact with the open source communities that we're involved in. It's about the people and the communities, and the goals and outcomes that they're all trying to produce.
And I can actually go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I was just going to add on. We saw the enrollment there with the tokens, and I admit the first time I was seeing us implement that, I was like, I don't know, but it's something that is evolving and continues to evolve as we work with customers to fit those needs, and we never want someone not to use the product because it's not. Because it's a barrier. We never want to have that barrier to entry for customers.
And to Neil's point, it also gives us the ability to really engage with commercial entities like RunSafe and offer their enhancements to the community in a way in which can then satisfy them as well. Again, we love our open source communities and we love interacting and supporting them, but we also there is commercial entities out there that can add value back to the open source, and this does give us a mechanism to help them interact with the community as a whole. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And the other part that I probably forgot to say is we can also do that more, what I like to call the legacy model of, if it makes sense to count nodes for you, we can do that. It kind of follows the same path and the same levels of advanced, standard, basic, but it can be for those per node. We just think that most people are going to be interested in a per person model. Gives you that ability to grow without having to count. That's always something that's been painful. I've lived through those many times where you're trying to figure out right before renewal, what do you have? And then you end up realizing you grew by 500 servers and oh my gosh, who's going to pay for that? So it kind of enables you to go be successful.
For CI environments, testing environments, all that sort of thing, where you want to be able to have the flexibility of spinning things up and down.
Sure. And the other part about this is not every person that subscribes has to be at the same level. So if you have a team of people, maybe you have some junior engineers that have a different requirement or a different amount of involvement in the process, they can subscribe at a different level, not necessarily that 24/7 level that you might have your higher level architects working in. So it's a very flexible model. To me, it's very exciting. I think it's going to change the way that people look at doing software support. Any specific you want to talk about on this one, Robert, or anything else?
The only thing I would add is, and I'll give it an example, is probably the best way to explain it. We've had many organizations come to us in the test dev and situation for Rocky, for example. And just to be clear, this model applies to Singularity, now Aptainer, and Werewolf as well. So there is no difference in the way in which we approach any of the open source communities we're involved in. It actually is also how we're going to approach our next generation high performance computing platform. So again, always focused on the people that we're supporting. However, just keep in the back of your mind that in a test dev environment, maybe you just need 1 or 2 people in the beginning. Maybe you just need a standard instead of an advanced in the beginning. And then as we prove out the applications being successful, as we prove out the solution can now be put into production, now you maybe beef up to the support staff that's actually engaged there. Maybe we also then have a couple licenses for your development team as they develop your application further. So the model gives us the ability to really help different organizations inside your organization in different ways that maybe a traditional per node model wouldn't. However, again, like you said, we can do a per node or per instance, very simplified per node per instance model, or by the person that is needing that support. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Or by the team. I think I forgot to mention by the team. So if you have a team of people, I mean, like we said, we can mix and match however we need to, but we can also license just by the team. And I say license, I mean subscribe. One of the other things that Robert, you and I have gone back and forth many times on is the topic of CentOS 7. Since it had a longer runway than 8, I think it's an important topic. We get asked about it a lot. What do I do with that Cent 7 environment? How do I move? If I'm looking for support, how do I deal with that environment? So I think it's exciting and interesting that we kind of have all agreed to what we're going to do with that. And I would love for you to tell us, what are we going to do?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So we've been asked over and over again to support CentOS 7. We've been asked even to help potentially create a Rocky 7, and we're interested in both, to be clear. But in the immediate, we definitely want to support our current customers and folks that need it with their Cent 7 environments. So that actually is included in our support model now. So not just Rocky support and the variants of Rocky. And to be clear, every and any variant of Rocky that will be in the community or for different customers will be included in our model as well. So we're not segregating out the different variants. And Cent 7 is obviously a first-class citizen in that now.
I just want to make sure I clarify. If you want to come to us and do a subscription, the per person model subscription to cover Rocky Linux, that also would cover your Cent 7 environment. It's not like I'm having to do one for Cent 7, one for Rocky. It is, you get a team supported by CIQ, you're getting supported for Cent 7 and Rocky 8 plus.
Enterprise Linux, yeah.
Perfect. So I know there are other things that kind of Neo, you alluded to earlier, that are coming as a part of what we're doing, especially with Repo as a service. So imaging always comes up. We talk about imaging as a service. And I think the other question that we get asked quite often is, how do we handle patching? So what's coming for those types of solutions?
Right. You can imagine kind of like full end-to-end security advisories and integrations with chat tools and whatever else to enable those workflows so that administrators are able to help update their environments and see what's going on in their environments from I really hate to say the word, but single pane of glass. It's one of my pet peeves, but a centralized that allows you to see your environment as you want to see it, group it how you want to group it, and stage those updates and push them through as they make sense for you and for your business, because there's a trillion different ways that organizations update systems, have systems siloed from one another. They may have dev test environments. They may have several dev test environments that might need different requirements for different packages, levels, and security versions. But specifically with the security stuff, enabling all of those systems from a top-down model to say, like, I don't really care about whatever package versions are in these specific groups. I always want to make sure that we're not vulnerable to CVEs because the security team is wanting me to patch these, or they say I patched them. And also just working with customers as well from a customer user perspective to identify those CVEs and look at what risks they do impose or don't impose, or maybe there's a false positive or something like that. So all the things down the line from there. And as well on imaging too, like, we are super hyper focused on security and trying to make sure that where the packages come from, where the images come from that create an image that you're booting, whether it's booting into a cloud environment or using it on a container in a Kubernetes environment or a cluster. Growing the service to provide those sorts of service repositories and container registries with those customizations as well, so that they can be built on the fly and given to you as well within the secure environment. So then if you're running Kubernetes, for example, you can just go ahead and schedule your deployments to go grab the latest image and pull it down. And when you're pulling that image, you're getting, you're ensuring that it's going to have the latest. You're ensuring that it has the latest updates that have the security patches that are available.
Excellent. Yeah, the only thing I'd add is we do take security very seriously. Multiple cryptographic signatures over time, maybe a signature for a vulnerability scan at the repo level before you deploy a patch. There's multiple different ways in which we have strategies for those multiple signatures to ensure what you're putting out there is what you want to be put out there. That goes to universal base images for containers. That goes to all sorts of different capabilities that customers have been asking us for. But that software supply chain security we take extremely seriously, and we even have a couple patents around that. So at the end of the day, that is something that will be built into our products and our thought process as we deliver this and help others deliver to their servers.
That's great. Thanks, Robert. And the other thing I know you saw these emails today actually asking on FIPS 140-3. I know it's in process. We've talked about it many times, but is there an update on where that is, or is it still scheduled for later this year?
Yes. So we are going through the process. We are engaged in the process. We have multiple updates that will have different timelines over the next, say, 6 months to 9 months. And I think we'll keep the community up to date at every step of progress. But yes, it is moving very well, and we're enjoying the progress so far based on that.
Excellent. Thank you. So that was kind of all the questions I had. I was hoping we'd have questions from the community. I know there are several people watching. If you guys have questions, go ahead and ask them while we're killing time. I want to ask about Neil's shirt. I kind of see that it has been. Oh yeah, there you go. Nope, you're on mute. We lost you. Oh no.
Redshirtjeff.com, not an ad.
There you go. Very nice. Mr. Gilling, appreciate all you do. I've seen him wearing Rocky shirts in some of his videos. So.
Yep, thought we'd repay the favor.
It's awesome. Yeah, so if we don't have any more questions, guys, I will let Neil and Robert go. Appreciate you joining again. Go like, subscribe, let us know you're here. Reach out if you have any more questions. We're always here to help and help you in this journey. Appreciate the time.
Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.